The last time I picked Alabama to lose was in the championship against Georgia. And that was the only time on my history of living on this earth that I've ever picked against Alabama, and I was right. And well, here we are. Fast forward time into 2023. Am I going to do it again? Well, I've came to the executive decision that this Alabama and Texas A&M game gets its own separate preview. Because you know how we normally do things around here on Thursday, that's when we do the preview for all the big time games. But like I said, I think this game is extremely important, not just for Alabama, but it's important for Texas A&M. And I think Alabama fans and A&M fans know how important this game is, but I don't think the rest of the SEC and rest of the country understands the magnitude of this game. It's huge, it's make or break, especially for Alabama, and we'll get to that in just a second. For starters, how about this? Let's pull up the line for this game. I don't even know what it is, but let's give you some perspective before we get to talking here. Okay, yeah, as where it stands, a little lower than what I thought. Alabama is only a 1.5 point favorite on the road. I thought it'd be more so of around Alabama by 4 or 5 points, but I can understand this. As good as Alabama has looked in the past couple of weeks, a lot of people haven't really paid attention to A&M, and they've looked pretty dang solid as well. A&M's coming off of two, I'd say, pretty decent wins. They beat Auburn 27-10, and we just saw Georgia struggle with them, only beat them by 7 points. And they beat Arkansas on the road 34-22. And a key point to mention, throw in there, is A&M is doing this with their backup quarterback, Max Johnson, who now is going to be what I assume the starter the rest of the season because Connor Wigman's out for the year. Devastating blow. My prayers and thoughts going to Connor Wigman and his family, but next guy up mentality, right? Max Johnson, he's your guy. And the intriguing part about Max Johnson, especially in the Auburn game, is he performed better than Wigman, and this A&M offense, they haven't skipped a beat. And also to give you some more context, if you aren't too familiar with Max Johnson and this Texas A&M football team, he started for this team previously before he was the backup. So it's not like he's going to have too much nerves or he's new to the spotlight. He's not your typical backup. That is the fortunate part about having a backup who was previously starting for you or just starting in general. And if you want me to be honest, I'm not going to sit up here and debate on whether or not Max Johnson's better than Carter Wingman, but here's what I will tell you. He's more than capable of winning games for A&M. And I'll leave it at this and we'll get a move on. I don't think the A&M offense is too different whether you have Max Johnson or Connor Wigman in there. It's 1A, 1B. It's not a huge drop-off, whereas for Alabama, I think the difference from Jalen Milroe and their backup quarterback, which is, I guess now Ty Simpson, that's a huge drop-off, to me at least. For A&M, not too big of a deal, really not. The really intriguing part about this game is I think A&M, I'm not going to say they have a better team than Alabama. I've seen a lot of people saying that. But I think they have close to as good as a team as Alabama. This is as close as A&M's ever going to get to a talent standpoint with Alabama and Nick Saban. Previous years, even when they upset them a couple years ago, they weren't as talented as Alabama, but this year, they're right up there with them. They got a better wide receiver core, and they obviously have the best wide receiver in this game in Evan Stewart. That guy's unreal. You could argue and say they got a better offensive line than Alabama, a better running back core than Alabama. You see where I'm going with this. This is probably one of the first times in 12, 13, 14 years when you start talking about Alabama matchups against different teams, you start talking about, okay, hey, this team doesn't have to have Alabama beat themselves or have crazy turnovers. They just need to play their A game because this is a better team than Bama. It's just funny because in the past, we're like, okay, for this team to beat Bama, this has got to happen, XYZ's got to happen, and then this has got to happen, and this has got to happen. Whereas now we're like, okay, if A&M goes out here and they play their B-plus game, they can win. It's just funny how the tides have turned, and that's just the reality of the sport now. Alabama, no, I don't want to say they're declining, but they're sort of falling off of that great run they had. And there's more parity in the sport with the NIL and transfer portal. That's just how things are. And as an Alabama fan, I don't like admitting that, but it's the truth. So like I was saying, though, player for player, this is a similar matchup. But at the end of the day, here's where Alabama has the edge over A&M. They're a better coach team. Alabama Nick Saban is going to get the most out of their players. Jimbo Fisher and A&M, not so much. And this is a personal preference for me at least, but I always like picking teams that are well coached. You can't go wrong with an Alabama team led by Nick Saban. Can't go wrong. For me at least, I'm so excited for this game because I want to see that Alabama defense, who I'm labeling as great and they can be borderline elite by the end of the season, up against that A&M offense. That is going to be a heck of a matchup because I could see this Alabama defense holding into 7 or 10 points. I really could. They're that good and they look that impressive. Remember, that Alabama defense held Ole Miss to 10 points. Ole Miss just put up a 55 burger on LSU. And I wanted to say heading into this video, that's going to be the X factor, the Bama defense. But then I sat back and thought about it. I said, nope, you're thinking too hard, Matt. You're thinking too hard. The answer's right in front of you. Every single time we've talked about this Alabama team, and probably every single time moving forward, the X factor is and will be Jalen Milroe. I get it, it's cliche, but he's an X factor. It's as simple as that. No need to overcomplicate it. It's like trying to lose weight. There's not a secret to it. You just gotta lower your calorie intake. When you have teams that are evenly matched and even stacked up, similar to the Alabama and Texas game, it's gonna come down to who has the better quarterback. It always comes down to that more times than not. I think the storyline and remedy of this game is fairly simple. If Jalen Milroe plays good, he doesn't even have to play great. If he plays good, Alabama wins this game. But, and I have a really big but. However, if Jalen Milroe does not play good, he plays bad, has maybe one interception, maybe two, a couple turnovers, Alabama does not win this game. I don't even think Max Johnson for A&M is the X factor because I know what I'm going to get out of him. He's going to make a few good plays and he's going to play winning football. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to Milroe, and if he can play the way he did in the second half against Ole Miss and throughout the entire game against Mississippi State, Alabama wins this game easily. It won't even be close because if Milroe's crossing his T's and dotting his I's, Texas A&M can't even compete with Bama. But ever since I've started watching film for both these teams and thinking about the matchup, I've had a gut feeling about A&M. And I haven't even brought this up. This is one of the biggest parts about this game. It's on the road. It's at A&M. A&M seats over 100,000 people. That's going to be a hostile environment. And here's something for your train of thought. Although, yeah, Jalen Milroe, he's played A&M before. He started against Texas. He hasn't played on the road. Jalen Milroe has yet to play in a hostile environment. If I was a Bama fan, that would concern me not just a little bit, but a lot of bit. How is Milroe going to react if A&M goes out here, scores 7 points, and he throws a turnover, and then next thing you know, you blink your eyes, A&M's up 14-0. That could be the end of the game right then and there for Alabama. I would like to see Milroe only throw the ball at max 20 times in this ball game. That's it. He is the most efficient when he's playing like he did against Mississippi State. Only passing the ball 12 to 15 times per game and running the ball 12 to 15 times per game. That's all we need. We don't need Milroe going out here throwing the ball 40 times a game. No. We need him to do what he did against Mississippi State. Now, you also got to understand that is not realistic. Why is it not realistic? Because Mississippi State, they couldn't stop Alabama's run game. They didn't have to pass. Here's a fun fact for you and a stat you need to pay attention to. A&M is only allowing 96.2 rushing yards per game. That front seven for their defense is one of the better ones in the SEC. That is one of my biggest concerns because Texas A&M, similar to Texas, they had a good front seven and they stopped Alabama's run game. So what happened? Alabama couldn't run the ball. They had to pass the ball, and yeah, we saw what happened. You make Alabama throw the ball 30, 40 times a game with Milroe back there, mistakes can happen, and I'll leave it at that. That is not the style that 2023 Alabama wants to play. They don't want to pass the ball as much as they did with Bryce Young, Matt Jones, and Tua. They want to get back to how they played with Jalen Milroe and Jacob Coker. I said Jalen Milroe, my apologies. I meant to say Jalen Hurts. Yeah, my bad. This isn't a team that wants to go out here and throw for 350 yards per game. No. That's going to be key. And whether or not Alabama's defense allows 10 points or 28 points, I just don't think they're the X factor. Because at the end of the day, Jalen Milroe's got to play good. If you don't play good, you don't even give Alabama a chance to win this game. As far as it goes for the other quarterback in this game, Max Johnson, like I said, I know what to expect out of him. I don't think Jimbo Fisher's going to let him loose. I just don't see that happening because the last thing Jimbo wants is Max Johnson to lose him the game. He's going to let him throw the ball, and I do see Johnson making some plays. He's always made some big-time plays, but he's also made some big-time turnovers. It's really going to be the battle of the quarterbacks in this game. Whichever quarterback plays better, their team wins. Here's something we need to throw in there, though. A&M and Jimbo Fisher, they got Nick Saban's number. 2 years ago, they upset him, and last year, they should have won the game. I don't like Jimbo Fisher. Don't care for him. We're not here to talk about that. You know the bad blood between him and Nick Saban and then just the rivalry that started to heat up recently. But I will admit, in the past couple years against Bama, he's starting to figure things out. And here's a fun fact for you. The last time I picked against Alabama was all the way back, not last year, not this year, but 3 years ago in 2021. The last time I picked Alabama to lose was in the championship against Georgia. That was the only time I picked against Alabama in recent memory. And that was the only time on my history of living on this earth that I've ever picked against Alabama, and I was right. And well, here we are. Fast forward time into 2023. Am I going to do it again? It seemed like this would be the game to pick against Bama, wouldn't it? Road game, hostile environment, quarterback hasn't played on the road in a big-time game, 2:30 CBS matchup. It doesn't get any bigger than this. When it's all said and done, I think Jalen Milroe, he makes only one big and costly mistake, and it cost Alabama the game. On the flip side, I think Max Johnson has one of those games where he'll never play that good, and he couldn't dream of playing that good if he wanted to ever again. And with that being said, I am calling the upset. Nope, this isn't a false alarm, the real deal. I got A&M upsetting Alabama. A&M and Jimbo Fisher, they beat Nick Saban in Alabama for the second straight time at home, 28-24. Alabama's defense, they play decent, but Jalen Milroe, he puts them in a bad position, and A&M capitalizes. 28-24, I hate to do it, but I think A&M wins this game. I hope A&M doesn't win because obviously I'm a Bama fan. I don't want that to happen, and it would also end our season, but that's what I think is going to happen. You never like to pick against your own team. I've only done it twice. This is now the second time ever in my life, but you got to do what you got to do. And here's my question, and please answer it in the comment section because it's what I asked myself. Why would you even pick Alabama in this game? It doesn't seem like anything's in their favor. Outside the defense, I think A&M has the edge over Alabama in everything, or they're tied with them in everything. And if it's an even matchup on paper, I think the biggest factor is, okay, where's the game played at? The game's played at home in a hostile environment, and you're hosting a quarterback who has never started a true road game like this? Yeah, the edge might be in the Aggies' favor. And also what concerns me is Alabama is still having snapping problems. Every single game Alabama fumbles at least 2 snaps. I don't know why it's still happening, but it is. Well, heck, man, if you do that against A&M and you have one of those turn to a turnover, that's a huge swing of momentum. I think A&M wins. It's as simple as that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we go out there and blow them out, but I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But,